Hello everyone. My name is Yana. Um, Maybe I was speaking with somebody of you who watching me now. We have a week of free lessons of game dev. So today I want to say at first some words about our school. So our school, Black Screen AI, it is a project of the IT school program in Silicon Valley for English-speaking students, founded in 2016 year in California. From this time, we have more than 25,000 online students from all over the world. Instructors and assistants work in companies in the USA, Canada, and Europe. Programs are developed considering the requirements and process of IT corporations and startups. Students undergo internships and commercial projects. We help students to reach employment. As you see, we work since 2016 year. From this time, we have also offline groups. Now, we have online classes, but as you see, before we have so many offline groups. After COVID, we decided to make our classes online because it will be better, and as we think it's more comfortable for students. Also, you could see a graduates reviews from our students. We have YouTube video on our YouTube channel, so you can see it. And of course, our students, after finished our courses, they can work in such big companies like Microsoft, Oracle, Meta, Amazon, Google, and another one. And you can see it on LinkedIn. It's an open information. So, as I told you before, today we have a free live classes. Yesterday, we have a first one about who is a game dev Unity expert. And today, we will have a workshop making your first game in Unity. So, I want to introduce to Daniel Skrill. Meet your instructor, Unity developer with over 8 years of experience creating engaging and innovative projects, Game Dev Unity course, tutor at Black Screen. So Daniel.
Hi there.
Hey.
Okay, perfect. I think, can I share my screen so
Of
that
course.
I can ease the transition between various programs? Okay, perfect. Hello, everyone. Thank you for that introduction. I'm Daniel Sproul. I hope some of you tuned in yesterday and are again tuning in today because this will be a bit of a continuation of yesterday. I'm not going to go into all the details that I said yesterday, but basically it was a lot of introduction to who I am, to what game development is, what it means to me. I'm gonna do a little bit of a recap, but then we'll dive into a lot of cool things. And I'll actually screen share Unity itself for a bit, and I'll show you a game in Unity. We'll dive into all the little bits and pieces, and I'll do a little bit uh, of an exploration. I will say, you don't expect to walk away from today like, okay, well, I guess I'll go build a game now. Unity takes time to learn. I'm trying to just put ideas in your head so that hopefully when you take the course, everything flows a little smoother. You have a bit more of an idea of how Unity works and if this is something you want to pursue. Uh, but first, a little bit about me. I I've been a Unity developer for over 8 years, and I've worked on some really cool projects. Uh, do 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 do. I got my start. Actually, I mentioned this yesterday, but I'll repeat it because I think it's a good thing to repeat. I actually went to college for electrical engineering. I went to Princeton University and got my degree in electrical engineering. And then when I graduated, I realized, oh, I definitely do not want to do electrical engineering. And I taught myself to be a Unity developer. And so I have a lot of firsthand knowledge on how to navigate the industry as someone with zero game development experience. A lot of people go to school for game design, game development, or what have you, and then transition to a career. But I just was pure hobby. I love playing games. Who doesn't love playing games? And I transitioned into building it, and it was a great time. So first started working on this game called Hydro Flash, which was an educational shooter game that was my own idea. And I was kind of just like building it on my own, and it was an online game. And I used that experience to then transition me into a real job. And I hope that's what you all are looking forward to doing, taking experience, building your own games and then using that to transition into a position at a game studio. Also, I have oop, I have the comments up, so like feel free to ask. Oh, I think there's a bit of an echo or someone's unmuted, so
No, I just want to ask
okay.
everyone from except Daniel to might please because it's yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Please keep your microphone muted so that it goes smoothly for everyone. Uh, I lost my train of thought. Oh, I was saying that I have the chat open, so feel free to ask questions, comments. This is meant to be engaging. Like the reason why this is so much better than just like watching a YouTube video or watching this or watching that is that you get real-time feedback. You can say, "Wait, can you go back to the previous slide? I have this question." And I'll answer them live. And especially at the point where we're diving into Unity, I think it'll be super useful to just get those questions out.
Yeah.
So I mentioned that I created my personal projects, and then I used that experience to get a job at Topps Digital. And you might know Topps because they're traditionally a baseball card company, but they also made a Marvel game and a Disney game. And so they had Marvel trading cards and Disney trading cards. And it was a really fun time. I really enjoyed my time at Topps. We made a couple of great games. And then next I transitioned to Nerd Ninjas, where the whole world of game development opened up for me. I worked on Pokemon Go, which was huge. Nerd Ninjas does some contracting for larger game studios, so Niantic is the creator of Pokemon Go, and so we had a little team uh, working with people at Niantic working on Pokemon Go, and honestly, one of the best game dev experiences of my life. I don't know how many of you guys are Pokemon fans. I'm a huge Pokemon fan, and it was just a really great time. And let me see, did I have slides of yeah. And then the current project that I'm working on at Nerd Ninjas is this roguelike virtual reality game called Rogue Pinata's VR Mageddon. It's a mouthful. Say that 5 times fast. Rogue Pinata's VR Armageddon. And it's a really fun game. The goal of the game, it's super silly, super wacky and whimsical. There are a bunch of pinatas come to life attacking you for hitting their friends with a bat, and you get all these wonky weapons. One of them is a rocket launcher that's a mailbox and shoots soda bottles. It's just a really fun, crazy game, and it's been a huge challenge. How do you use a virtual reality device which has a lot of limited memory, limited computer processing power, and like take the limited hardware and create a really beautiful, really fun, really explosive game where there are a lot of things managed at the same time. And it's been a challenge for sure, but we've been managing it and we're very close to launching. So if you look it up, you can see a trailer, you can see our website, you can see a bunch of information about it, and it's a really cool game that I feel really lucky to have gotten to work on. And of course, I'm a gamer at heart, so I've been playing a lot of Marvel Rivals recently. It's just a fun time. I see a question. When does Rogue Pinatas come out? We're hoping to release by the end of the month. We're doing a release on the Oculus Quest store and then doing a Steam release. So hopefully by the end of the month, there's like a whole press timeline and everything. And but we'll have our release date finalized probably towards the start of next week. So yeah, you and I would both like to know when it's coming out. Yes, but oh man, I'm a gamer at heart. I own a ton of board games. I love playing video games, and I love gaming. I love the way it brings people together. I actually recently bought a PS5 just because all of my friends have PlayStation 5s, and I was like, well, I don't want to be left out, and I like the connection that you can that gaming creates. Now, why Unity? If you know anything about game development, then you'll know that there are sort of three major players. There's Unity, there's Unreal, and there's Godot. And Godot is probably the smallest of the three. And oh, okay, I see a comment about Moss, and I will say I bought it on like Steam sale, and it looks incredible. I just haven't had the time to get around to it. Probably like many of you, I have a Steam library of like hundreds of games that I'll play eventually. But back to why Unity. So Unity, or let me start with Godot. Godot is a smaller platform. It's open source. It's harder to learn because there's fewer resources. So I generally don't recommend people start with Godot. Unity is a step up from Godot. Unity is super polished. Tons of incredible games are made in Unity. Assassin's Creed used to be the main one that everyone talked about, but now you have Cuphead, you have Among Us, so many great games. Almost every mobile game is made in Unity because it's so easy to just get in and get started with Unity. And that's why so many people use it. Unreal is high level, pro level. Like people make movies in Unreal. People make really high intense games that span across tons of teams in Unreal, but it is a little harder to get started with. And so Unity is a happy medium where game developers can develop games without having a ton of overhead and really dive in. Hollow Knight, I'm not sure if Hollow Knight is made in Unity. I will say that if you made a Hollow Knight clone in Unity, you can make Hollow Knight in Unity. You can do anything in Unity, really. And I mentioned this at least 5 times yesterday, but polish, in my mind, take everything I say with a grain of salt because this is my strongest personal opinion that polish is the key to a good game. It's the key to a good game dev portfolio. It's the key to what makes a good game great. When you step into the game and the world is sleek, the world makes sense, the UX, and UX stands for user experience. The user experience just makes sense. Everything feels like candy. That is what really makes games pop. And I do want to emphasize to you guys if you go home, if you don't end up taking the course, but you do end up doing game development, I just want you to remember the one thing: polish your portfolio. Having been on the other side of job interviews now, where I see a lot of resumes, a lot of portfolios come in, I see a lot of games that look like student projects. And student projects are great, they're great learning experiences, but they communicate to the interviewer that you are at a student level. What you want to communicate is that, sure, I don't have as much experience on my resume because I only have these projects that I've worked on, but look at how good these projects look. I'm a much higher level engineer than you think that I am. So polish is the core principle, and I will hammer it home every day, every day of the course. Okay. So let's talk a bit about the challenges of building with Unity. I think that Unity has a lot of its own unique bugs, and games games are complex. Games are hard to make. Games have a lot of interconnected systems, and I think that one of the least favorite but most rewarding parts of game development is bug fixing, diving through your code to figure out what you did wrong sounds terrible, but the moment you find a bug, the moment you figure out, a more efficient way to do something is beautiful, and I love it. And it's something that really, really keeps you going day in and day out. So, what is Black Screen going to do? What will happen in said course? In this course, we'll teach you how to make games from scratch. So you'll walk out of this course with 2 games that you can put in your portfolio. I'll teach you not only how to make games, not only how to code, not only how to design games, not only how to build games, but you'll have 2 games that you can then do whatever you want with. And games are so versatile. You don't have to just take the game from the course and then put that in your portfolio, apply to jobs. You can add whatever you want to it. You can make your own characters. You can move things around. And I think that's the key to really learning and understanding Unity. It's taking the base project, taking the things you've learned, and then experimenting, trying something new. And then that's honestly how human beings learn, by taking the familiar and then slightly tweaking it to the unfamiliar and then reinforcing those paths. Now, why is game development just that great? Well, it's because it's one of the few industries that, like, gender and age don't matter, education doesn't matter. All it requires is a person dedicated to learning. And I think that if you're learning, if you're trying to learn, you can excel as a game developer. When I look at resumes for game development, when my company is hiring, you basically skip over the college portion and you look and see what has this person done? What does their portfolio look like? What does their work experience look like? And you guys are venturing upon the opportunity of creating a really nice portfolio. Um, Oh, yes. There's a special deal for this course that if you stay till the end of the slides at the end of the hour, there will be a special surprise deal. So stick around for that. But today we're going to dive into Unity. And so I think this is a good time for me to exit the boring slideshow and get to the really cool parts of Unity. So I'll open Unity a little bit and then we'll return to the slides and we'll sort of hop back and forth a little bit. So this is Unity. This is a sample project that it's a first-person shooter game, and you get to move around, you get to shoot enemies. But let's take Unity in. I'm gonna try and make things a little larger. I apologize because I'm assuming that the screen might be a little cramped. Uh, Let me see how. I hope this is at least a little visible, but there's a couple of big chunks that, first of all, you'll notice there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on, but we'll take it piece by piece, chunk by chunk, and figure out what exactly is going on here. First, we'll start in the center. This is the game window. This is where the game is. Simple enough. See, isn't Unity so easy? The game window shows you what your players will see in the game. So if we hit this play button, you'll jump into a game immediately and your view will be this little window here. You'll notice there's a tab here that says scene. So this is a crazy view where you can see the actual world. So this is the level. If I zoom in, I can, move the camera around, I can look around and I can see, oh, that's a cute little planet. I can look around and see. You recognize this? That's the door from here. So scene view is shows you all the components. You can move things around, you can adjust things and whatnot. The game view just shows you how it's going to look. And so I'll actually hit play, let you see the world we're going to be messing around with. And so this is a game where your goal is to eliminate all the enemies. So I have this player. I can move them around with the WASD keys. I can fire this blaster. I can zoom in, I can fire, and I can hit. There's an enemy up ahead, and I can zoom in and hit them. Boom. Look at that. Look at that aim. Oh, can you guys not see Unity? I I see someone just asked, am I
See it?
showing something? Okay, well, let's double check. Okay, okay, everyone can see it. Okay, I was freaking out for a moment. Okay, yes, I'm showing Unity and everyone can see it. Or almost everyone can see it, it appears. Um, yes. So, back to the hopefully yeah, maybe just look in the Zoom window. You should see the screen being shared. I only see slides. I'm not sure. I could try stopping my share and resharing. See if that helps. No, let
Let's
me
try to do it because I also can see.
Okay, I reshared Unity. Do you see it? Just
Still
gonna
no.
still no, still seeing. Okay, it seems like half the people. You know what? I
But
think
if
I think
people
you might.
see, it's everything okay, I think.
I think you're still sharing your screen, so maybe if you stop sharing and then I'm the only one
Maybe.
who shares, that would
Just a
probably.
second.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. And boom. Hopefully, I've got a feeling that this is going to be the one that works. Can everyone see Unity?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect, perfect. We're in. Yeah, that was the problem. So I guess the priority of sharing on Zoom is odd.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, good to know. Thank you for calling it out. And see, I got my eyes on the chat. So yeah, let me go back to let me hop out of play mode really quickly. So, just a quick recap. You probably heard what I was saying, but didn't see. But so this is the scene window. It's how you actually view the world that you're building. So I can jump around, I can move around and see. So this is the actual level for the player to play. I can see the background, I can see this beautiful planet. And if I switch to the game window, this is what the player will see. So then when I hit play, you'll notice that it actually pops that all of this just starts playing in the game window. And that's the same view we just saw. And I can run around. I can attack this enemy here. Wow, look at that aim. Yeah, and they drop health packs, all these things. Everything you want in a game. Really, really fun stuff. And we'll jump around a little bit, but I just want to get the basics out so that you guys, this is the whole thing is just so you can see Unity, so you can feel it, so you can get an idea of how it works. Don't don't think that you'll see this and you'll be like, oh, okay, now I know how to make a game. This is just the bare minimum. We're just getting you familiar with the way the editor works, so that when we actually do dive in the first class, it'll be that much quicker and easier. So you'll notice this. This is the hierarchy. The two sides of the game and scene window are your bread and butter. So this side is the hierarchy, this side is the inspector. The hierarchy shows you everything in the scene. So the scene is basically uh, the moment in the game that we're playing right now. So this scene is the main scene, so it's where most of the things happen. Yes, I see Dima has a hand raised.
Yes. Hi, Daniel. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
What version of Unity are you using? Like,
Yes,
the last.
I'm using Unity 2022.352. In general, it's always a good idea to use Unity's LTS version. And so LTS stands for long-term service. And so Unity is constantly putting out updates. Like if you go to their archive page, they're filled to the brim with updates. They do maybe like 20, 30 updates a year, but you always want to use their LTS versions of their editors because they will last for a while. So long-term service means that you can use 2020. I could use Unity 2015 LTS for maybe 10 years and it'll work. I can release my game and I won't have to constantly update Unity for that game because it's the long-term service. Yeah, good
Gotcha. Thank you.
question. Um, But so in the hierarchy, when you click on something, you can see the details pop up in the inspector. So this is the player, and you'll notice there's something that handles player input, something that controls the character. There's like all these audio sounds, there's like footsteps, the player's health, weapons, so on and so forth. You'll see there's a lot. There's a lot going on. And Unity is always going to be overwhelming if you dive into a project and look at it. But I'm hopefully going to simplify a few of the pieces for you. So you can there's this concept known as a prefab in Unity, and a prefab is just it's short for prefabricated, and it means that it's a little package of instructions that you can duplicate. So let's say you have an enemy in your levels. Well, you don't want to have to design an enemy from the ground up every time you do it. So instead, you'll use a prefab. So for instance, there's this enemy turret that you can see in this scene. Enemy turret right here. So it's a prefab here in our project. So if I wanted to, I can just drag in a new enemy turret here. And so now there's just another enemy turret in the game. And I can like move it around, do. Now let's place an enemy turret. Let's just put it in the starting room and see what happens. And let's hope that it didn't break anything by just adding to it. Well, let's see what happens if we just do this. There he is, that enemy turret we just placed. And now I just made the level that much more difficult because I don't think that he's supposed to be there. Yeah, the enemy turret's supposed to be in here. Yeah, so it's just a small example of how using prefabs allows you to really quickly scale up your game. So if I wanted to, I could like duplicate, and I want this room to be really hard for players, so I'm adding a bunch of turrets here. So boom, boom, boom. Now I run in, and then I will instantly die because there's so many turrets around. Yeah, and you'll notice that the code runs on its own, like the enemy prefab is defined uh tightly with uh, basically it handles its own logic. So there's an enemy controller that controls health, uh all of this stuff. Tim, you asked why would it break anything? Well, sometimes logic gets a little weird. So hypothetically, if in the game manager I had a direct reference to the number of enemies, and I said, okay, when these two enemies are dead, you win the game. Then if I'm suddenly adding more enemies, things could get weird. If I have a direct reference that says, okay, kill an enemy turret, and I'm expecting this enemy turret to be killed, and then this one's killed, things get weird. And yeah, so that's a very brief foray into Unity. We're gonna take a step back, we're gonna breathe. It's important to breathe. And we're going to talk a little bit about the long process of making a game, of building a Unity project, and then we'll return to Unity once your minds have recovered from all that is Unity, and we'll dive in more. We'll take a little bit deeper of a look into the actual code, into a little bit of Unity itself, and we'll have some fun. We've got some time. So I'll click back into the slideshow. And now back to everyone's favorite part, the slides. So, we're going to make a game. You and I, right now, we need to create a game. So, there's a very long process of creating a game. In fact, I was very lucky to work on Rogue Pinata's VR Armageddon because I was able to see a project all the way from the start, the conceptualization of a project, to the very end, the crunching bugs weeks before launch and trying to hurry up and figure out how you're going to launch this game. And really, most of the success of the game happens in these first few steps when you brainstorm how you're going to build this game. So first you figure out an idea, you know? Sometimes it's a mechanic. I have a couple of game mechanics that have been bouncing in the back of my head for a while about like, oh, I love playing roguelites, but excuse me, I wish they did more with luck. So I want to make a game all about using luck in roguelites. So that'd be a roguelite game. You want to define the core mechanics. You want to have a rough idea of gameplay. What I do is I write one-pagers. So you write a one-pager, you want to be able to communicate all of your ideas effectively in one Google Doc page, right? So I want to make a game about luck. I want it to be a roguelike, which means that I want you to be able to die multiple times and get a little stronger each time. I want a clear level up system, and I want luck to be at the center of everything. Next, you gather your tools. This is mostly for when you're first starting with Unity, but you'll need to install Unity Hub, the Unity editor, and you'll install something to script in and type your code. I am a strong proponent of Rider. Rider is pretty industry standard, but it is a little pricey. And so Visual Studio is a great cheap option just while you get your bearings, and then you can decide if you want to spend a bunch of money on a fancy place to put your code. The last tip, and I really want you to take this to heart, is get familiar with the Unity App Store. Actually, I'm going to really quickly show you guys the Unity Asset Store because I think it's one of the most underrated tools in Unity. So it is exactly what it sounds like. It's a place where you can buy and sell Unity assets. But the thing a lot of people don't know is that there are so many free Unity assets. So if I'm looking for like a 3D character and I want it to be free. There's a free category somewhere. Let me see. Okay, sorry. I didn't pre-plan to show you the Unity Asset Store, but trust me, there's a way to sort. Let me search for characters. And so yeah, you can sort by price. Here we go, free. There we go. See, I told you I'd find it. Yeah, and so there's literally just loads of free characters that you can take from the Unity Asset Store, put in your game, and then build an awesome game with. You can search for UI, and there's free UI material. Look at this. There are just a ton of icons. I think one of the biggest roadblocks for a lot of people when it comes to Unity is that they think they have to do everything. They think, okay, I have to draw all of these characters. Then I have to animate all of these characters. Then I have to put them into Unity. Then I have to come up with the game design. Then I have to do all this. And I'm not going to lie to you. Game development is intense. There's a lot of moving pieces, but there's a lot of work already done. You don't need to be an artist to be a game designer. I wish I could show you guys how terrible of an artist I am, but I like to believe I make some pretty cool games because I know my place and I know I'm not an artist, so I let someone else do that work. Okay, so now you downloaded Unity, you got some really cool free assets, and I will say there are some awesome paid assets on the asset store. You pay $20 and you get like a whole world filled with characters that you can then use however you see fit. And it's all free for you to then resell or resell as in like sell your game. So there's no licensing issues. Like if you pay for something on the Unity Asset Store, you can put it in your game and you can sell your game and you don't have to pay anyone because you already bought that. So you'll create a project. When you go in Unity Hub to create a project, you can actually select a template. So the Unity demo that I'm using is just a template. It's the first-person shooter template, and it already has a ton of really interesting, cool things built into it. And so we're going to dive into Unity's code, the way Unity has written a first-person shooter, and we'll make fun of them for the way they code. No, we'll see all the different bits and pieces of Unity and how they view the correct way to write code and whatnot. And then these are all the little bits of Unity I was just telling you guys about: the scene view, the game view, hierarchy inspector, all the console. We don't really need to worry about the console yet. It's where all the errors pop up, and you just ignore the errors. No, I'm kidding. It's where you'll have to play with the console eventually as time goes on. But so now we're at the fun part, the part where you build a game. And building a game is nerve-wracking. It's scary. It's fun. But then you get did I mention what a game object was? I believe I probably inadvertently referred to game objects, but everything in Unity is a game object. Every object, every piece is a game object. This game manager is a game object. You can see that there's a little block. I think the block is kind of the symbol for game objects in Unity. Even this tab that says general, all it does is tell us that this is where all of the general things are. And yet it's still a game object. You can see that it has a transform, which just means its position in space. So I can move this around. And this means nothing. This is just a header to split up all of our game objects here in our hierarchy. But it still has a transform. And that's what I was doing when I took these enemy turrets and I was moving them around. You'll see up here that I'm adjusting their transform by moving this arrow. If I wanted to, I could also do X, Y, so on and so forth. I could change the color on it. I could give it a ton of health. I could lower its health. There's so much you can do. And please let me know in the comments if you want me to slow down, if you have any questions about things in particular. But I'm just trying to touch a lot of different areas so that you can dive in a whole lot quicker, because trust me, Unity can be complex, but hopefully we'll slow it down for you a little bit. Okay, we'll go back to the slides. And so just we're thinking about games holistically, meaning that we're thinking about the game as a whole, not quite the small pieces. So whatever game you build, it'll likely have levels. And there's a ton of different tools for creating levels. Again, you'll see if there's two things I'm going to advocate for, it's for you polishing your projects and for you using the Unity Asset Store. Actually, a funny story, I first picked up Unity my freshman year in college, and I tried it out and I was like, okay, I'm going to build a game. I'm going to build a game. And then I started animating, and I was like, okay, well, I need to 3D model these characters. I need to animate them. And it was terrible. I hated it, and I dropped Unity, and I said, okay, this isn't for me. And then I picked it up again, excuse me, a few years later, and I realized pretty quickly, oh, the Unity Asset Store is all that I sound. Stop me if I sound like a Unity Asset Store rep. I promise they're not giving me any kickback for referring all of you guys there, but it really just is a beautiful tool and resource for finding free materials. If you want a bike in your level, but you don't want to animate a bike or create a bike, you can probably just find a free bike asset. Anyway, that's how you build your level. Usually you'll find a bunch of pieces, you'll piece it together, you'll add some light, and you'll have a nice little level going. Now you got to code something. Unity uses C#, and coding is just as much, if not more, of a part of being a game developer as actually moving things around in Unity. In Unity, you'll take a game object, you'll set how it looks, you'll set the size of it, you'll set its position, but then you'll dive into the scripts and you'll say, okay, here's what it actually does. And so we'll hop back over to Unity for a bit, and we'll take a look at the player. So we'll go to the player character controller, and don't be scared. Don't be scared. don't leave the call. Don't leave the call. It's only 477 lines of code. And so we're taking a look at the player character controller. You'll notice that there's all of these public references. So we see player camera, audio source. Let's hop back in Unity. The player, we see player camera and audio source. So all they are references to things in the game. So if we click on the main camera, we see there's a main camera here. And so all it is a reference to the main camera. So we come back to Rider and we have player camera, and let's see what we do with it. For instance, okay, here's a useful comment. We apply the vertical angle as local rotation to the camera. Okay, no, never mind. This sounds complicated. Sounds too complicated. Let's find, and we don't need to do all that. But here's a simple one. This updates the height. So if there's a force, it moves the camera based on that force, right? And I'm doing a little bit of an oversimplification, but this is basically what's happening, right? Oh, I see in comments that your max code was 100 lines. Yeah, I will say a lot of Unity scripts. This is actually, let's see, how long's, yeah, see, here we go. We got a cute little 100 script or 100 line script. I think some Unity classes tend to be a bit more monolithic, meaning that you slap a bunch of things on them. That's a bad way to code. Try to avoid that if you can. What Unity has done in this example is they've split out so many different parts of the game into all their various pieces. So there isn't just one player class. There's a player input handler. There's a character controller. There's a weapons manager. If you wanted to, you could put all of those together into one thing and say, this is the player. And it would be a single class with like 5,000 lines of code. But the way to make it a lot easier is to split all those things apart, because you see there's a health script. You'll notice it's not called player health, it's called health. And that's because if you go to the enemy also uses the same health script. So it's the way, how did you find the names of all these variable functions? Who's great? So this is a demo project that you can use in Unity. So right when you create a project in Unity, you can select a template to build off of, and that's where all of this comes from. All of this is just free template from Unity, but then you can change it, you can move things around, and in the actual course, we're not going to be using a template. We're going to be building everything from the ground up. But if I started today building a Unity game from the ground up, it would be very boring, because you would see me doing a lot of boilerplate of creating a basic class, writing a couple of lines and like, okay, we want this to reference this, and this to reference this, and this to reference this. And that would be 30 minutes of the class. Invigorating, I know. But we're gonna continue on with the player character controller a little bit. So there's two, does it have, yes. There's a couple of bits of how Unity code works. So there's an awake function, and a function is just defined by what's in between these little curly brackets here. And again, if you don't know how to code, perfectly fine. This is just conceptual. This is just getting the ideas of Unity into your head. And so there's an awake function. This happens when the code first wakes up. It's the first thing that this class will ever do. So it'll find all of the actor managers, and it'll set the player of all of the actor managers to this. And all that means, fancy languages, blah, blah, blah. It tells the game, I am the player, which is a good thing, because we need the game to know that this guy labeled player, this guy right here, this is all the player is. It's a little capsule with a camera, with some effects, with a little bit of light going out, and it's looking that way. And in fact, you'll notice that this player camera, if I jump to the game view, is looking here. It's the same thing. Wherever this is looking is what the game view is. So the first thing that it does, it tells the game, okay, this is the player. And then there's the start function. So just a couple of Unity functions, awake, start, and update. Honestly, you can make Assassin's Creed using awake, start, and update. That's it. That's the core of Unity. Awake happens first, start happens second, and then update happens all the time afterwards. So update continuously runs. It checks if the player has died. It checks if the player has jumped. It checks if the player's on the ground. It does this every single frame of the game, and it handles the character movement. And that's it. That's the full player code basically. It checks all these things each frame, and it does them. And again, quick overview of Unity. We're simplifying a lot, but it's good. It's good to dive through. How's that sounding? How are you guys feeling? Is this a lot? Is it a little overwhelming? I'm gonna delete these turrets, and we're just gonna see how the game plays a little bit. If anyone has any questions about, like, oh, how's this thing happening in Unity? How's that? Feel free to ask them. So we see this enemy wakes up and it attacks us, and we can zoom in, we can fire, boom. How do you see different aspect ratios of the player? Let me pause. Pause. That's a great question because Unity isn't only for building things to play in this tiny little box here. So if you look up here, you can actually change to any aspect ratio. So I have a built-in one for the Pixel 8 Pro, which is the phone I have. And so this is what the game would look like if it were played on a phone. And then I can just continue to play. And you guys probably can barely see any of this because you're squinting. If I'm squinting, I know you're squinting. But yeah, if I pause it, I can change it back to a usable aspect ratio like 4K and whatnot. You'll notice at the top that this says Windows, Mac, Linux. That's because the game that I'm working on right now is built for computer, for PC. But if I go up here to the build settings, down here, you'll see that I can change it to Android. I can change it to iOS. I can change it to Universal Windows Platform for all three people that use that. PS4, PS5, WebGL, there's all, you can build anything you want using Unity, and it's just a giant, fun, easy platform for doing all that. I'll head back to the slides because we're running a little low on time, and but again, feel free to fire off any questions you have, and we'll get back to making this game. Now, remember, we're making this lucky game, this lucky roguelike game. We wrote some core. We started it in Unity. We wrote a little bit of the core mechanics, a couple of those core scripts that move the players around. Next, we add sound and UI. I always think sometimes people go far too deep when first making a game instead of focusing on just creating something. Like, you don't need to add a sound effect for every time you step, a sound effect for everything that happens here, here, and here. I think you can get very distracted very easily when making a game. And I think focus on the fun. Focus on, okay, I'm a character and I want to shoot the other characters with my blaster and I want them to explode and that to feel really cool. Focus on that. Focus on how that feels as a player. Focus on getting all of that right. Don't focus on how does it sound when I shoot a paintball and it ricochets off the wall? What if I'm further away? These are important questions, but are they the most important? No. UI and UX, again, UX means user experience. I don't know who made that decision. Someone decided one day that UX means user experience, and everyone believed them. And now we all say UX to mean user experience. And what the user experience is exactly what it sounds like. What do the players experience when they're playing the game? and UI is the user interface. How do they interact with the world? So to go back to Unity, the UI of the game is, once Unity loads, is this the eliminate all enemies, the health down here, I guess this is a weapon thing down here. Oh yes, it shows how many bullets I have left in my gun. UI is very important to every game because it's how you communicate information to the player without explicitly telling them. And we'll talk about this in the class for sure, but a lot of game development is sneaking lessons to the player without them knowing it. And it's like I don't know if you guys have pets, but it's like when you need your pet to take a pill, if you give it to them, they won't take it. So you cover it in peanut butter, you wrap it in some chicken, and you give it to them, and they'll take it. So it's like, how do you sneak tutorials into players without them knowing it? Because if a player sees a tutorial, they're going to mash through it. They're going to be like, oh, I don't want to learn how to play the game. I just want to know. And so then you teach them without telling them that you're teaching them. Okay, we've got really cool UI. We've got cool functions of the game. What's next? Well, animations, physics are a huge part of the game. Is there ballistic support in Unity? Yes, definitely. I think that there are probably packages. There's a lot of Unity packages that support that make things a lot easier, you know? So like there's probably a ballistics package that just really easily gives you what you need to work with Unity or make it work in Unity and to do it easily. But honestly, there's very little you can't do in Unity. Sometimes actually, I just use it because Unity is what I'm most familiar with. I just use Unity to make apps for my daily life. Like my older brother wanted to be able to shuffle music and decide randomly what music he wanted to listen to. So I just threw something together really quickly in Unity, packaged it out as an APK, and sent it to him. And because he has an Android phone, he just opened it up and it worked perfectly. Yeah, so physics and animations. Again, the asset store is your bread and butter for animations. It's a great place to find to rig skeletons and get things like moving. I think I respect artists so much because animating things is so difficult, but there's a ton of resources online where things are free or cheap, and you can easily get them into your game. And then playtesting. Congratulations, we just built a full game. Do you feel like you built a full game? I know that was a quick overview of a lot of things, but playtesting is huge. You are constantly diving into the game and playtesting. I mentioned that console. You're always looking through the console for errors, for logs and whatnot. You're trying to see if anything broke. Hopefully, this template doesn't have anything crazy going on, but yeah, I'm not seeing any errors. Maybe if I jump off this ledge, something will break or whatnot. No, everything works fine. Uh, this is not how a typical Unity session goes. Usually, you will see a ton of logs here. You'll see, oh, error, material not found, this not found, this not working, and it's fine. You just have to debug, find where things went wrong. Okay, playtest, debug. I've talked about debugging a little bit. I can really quickly show you the profiler, but we are quickly running out of time. The profiler, if you were here yesterday, you remember that I mentioned the profiler a lot. And the profiler shows you, okay, this is far too large. Let me skim this down. Let me move it down here. Okay, so the profiler shows you it's actually gonna make the game a lot slower to load, but this is what looks quite complex because you look down and you're like, whoa, this is the frame rate of the game. I can pause the game and I can click on a frame and then I can see just exactly it's crazy how powerful this stuff is. I can see everything that's going on. There's the player loop. There's rendering, there's commands and whatnot. If I unpause, if I move around, if I fire my weapon and I'm being fired at, whoa, look at all these things happening. Let's pause, pause, and I can see all these spikes and I can investigate what exactly is going wrong. Okay, they were waiting for a mouse event. A mouse event happened. It sent the mouse event. It took how many milliseconds? 0.02 milliseconds. And it's just so powerful. Unity's great. I feel like I shouldn't need to convince you anymore about how fantastic Unity is. But after you do all of that, after you build your game, you publish it and you ship it out and you say, okay, I built a game and I want to distribute it on these platforms. Uh, our course won't really touch publishing. We'll mention it, but publishing is honestly one of the simplest steps. You know, once you have a packaged up game, you can ship it out to the Google Play Store, and their instructions are pretty easy and straightforward. And it's like, okay, add this package to your game and then make sure it follows these things. And then boom, you now have a game on the App Store. Whew. Wasn't that easy? Okay. So as we wrap up, let's talk about improving your skills, all the places you can go. There's so many other things. Hopefully, many of you will take the Unity course. I really think it's going to be quite fruitful. It'll get you games for your portfolio. But join game dev communities. Discord, Reddit, Unity forums are great research places to research. There's a ton of game jams uh, where oh, is this a course about how to become an independent developer? This is a course about sort of the foundations of game development, how to be a game developer. I actually don't think that there's much of a distinction between an indie developer and would you say a specialist on a team? Like most teams, the game developers handle all of the like front end code, you know, in the same way that an indie developer would handle all of the front end stuff for their game. I think that when you're on when you have a job as a Unity developer, you work with a lot more people. So I don't even need to think about art because there are artists. I don't even need to think about game design, though I do, because there are game designers. And we talk, we discuss, we collaborate, and then my work is to implement the shared vision. Yeah, and I always say once you create a project, make a harder one, make a different type of game, because you should never stop learning and you should always continue to grow. Yeah, just a little bit more about the course and whatnot. Unity engineers are surprisingly lucrative positions. Unity has skyrocketed in popularity, and the game industry has skyrocketed in popularity as well. And they're making I don't see many jobs available for Unity developers. How's this position? I think Unity developer. Uh, I wouldn't say front end developer because that's typically web development, but Unity, there's a lot of maybe like game engineer. It's sometimes you might have to flip around terms a bit, but if you search for Unity, there's actually I will say software engineer is the big overarching thing, right? And if you want to just learn how to code, then this is the wrong course for you. Like general software engineer has way more job opportunities and whatnot, but game developer specifically has like entrance into the game sector. And I think a lot of people pursue game development because they feel the passion, they want a decent paycheck, and they you know, want to work at something that they enjoy. And so if that's you, then I highly recommend the game industry. And here's a little bit about game developer roles. Yeah, you could also search for like VR mobile develop, excuse me, all of that. As long as it's in Unity, then you'd be good to go. And yeah, so we've got a course coming up. There should be some details here. Starting I think it's going to be maybe late March, early April is when the course is supposed to be starting.
Yeah, it will start at March.
Okay, perfect. And the course is a 16-week course in game development, 3 sessions a week. You just like this, you can just ask questions and bounce back and forth, but you'll actually be guided through a full complete course. You'll have access to all of the recordings of the live sessions in case you miss, in case you want to revisit, in case you want to dig in and ask more questions and whatnot. And you'll have 2 projects ready for your personal portfolio by the end. Sorry, I'm just bouncing around these last couple slides. Yeah, and so you'll create 2 games for your portfolio. And the point of the course is to get you a job in the game industry after you graduate. I think I covered a lot of this. Yeah, oh, yes, here's the program curriculum. Yes, here we are. This is the just for today. If you lock in your prepayment, you'll actually save $1,000 on the course, which is a decent chunk. But yeah, you can scan the QR code, and I think my time has come to an end, but thank you. You guys have been a great audience. Are there any last minute questions anyone wants me to cover? Ooh, we hit perfectly at 01.
Maybe somebody want to ask questions?
Yeah, if there's any questions, I can definitely answer. If you have any questions about my Unity experience, what it's like to be a game developer, always I love to talk about games. If not, we can also call it here. You guys have been a great. Oh, so what's the Oh yes, this was just an overview in Unity, but there are for Free Week, there's a bunch of other courses being taught, or a bunch of other courses being taught, I believe at this time, tomorrow, Thursday, and Friday. I could be incorrect. But the time frame for the course, let me go back. Yes, it's 16 weeks. Each course is an hour, and it's 3 times a week. So 3 times a week for 16 weeks, so about 4 months. And you'll be building skills, building 2 games in Unity, learning how to code, learning how to use Unity. There will also be a little bit of interview prep so that you feel confident in getting a job as a Unity developer afterwards. Yeah, I think I hit all the questions. Let me know if you have any further questions, but yeah, thank you all.
Thank you so much. It was really so exciting.
Thanks. Yeah, sorry if it was a little bit of an overload. I think Unity, looking at Unity, especially the profiler, maybe I shouldn't have pulled up the profiler, but it's a lot to look at. There's a lot of, oh, what's this? What's this? What's this? What's this? There's a lot going on a small screen, but thank you all for bearing with me. Thank you for asking such insightful questions. And yeah, I hope to see you in the course.
See you. So thank you.
Yeah, take
Yes,
care,
yeah,
everyone.
first, take care.